the artist is engaged in writing a detailed history of the future because he's the only one who can live in the present. And then the question I have is, what is the relationship between art and time, and maybe art in our time?
Hmm. One of the things we can notice that can help us understand what you're talking about, and maybe that also that people can see it, is the way that art went in the modern age, like the way that art developed. And so and art manifested itself as this decoupling in the 20th century, and maybe even before, as this massive decoupling. And so something which actually its ultimate purpose would have been a kind of coupling of heaven and earth, a kind of manifestation of principles in the material world or in the world of phenomena, ended up being a decoupling. And it happened on several levels. It happened in this idea of decoupling what they call high art with low art. And so in a traditional world, art was the application of these principles into the world. And so everything in art, usefulness, beauty, and meaning were together.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so the idea of creating objects of art that had no relationship to function was just not something ancient people could ever think about. And so we've decoupled it. So we have products of mass production and of industrial use, and then we have art, which is this decoupled world of narratives, of objects, of music that have no connection to reality. Right? The idea of sitting in a concert hall listening to a concert is something that a medieval person would not even have imagined. Like, would you just sit there and listen to music? Like, no, music, you have music at a party, you have music at a wedding, at an event, at a liturgy, you have music to dance to.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's something, but just sit there and listen to music, that's such a modern thing. And so that decoupling happened. And then within art, the decoupling also happened. So even in the high art, so you have, in the modern age, people think of that the modern age it's mostly, the kind of deconstruction of traditional art. And so you have a kind of chaotic element, you have Dada, surrealism, and you have these Jackson Pollock, throwing his paint on paintings and everything. But you also have massive tyranny that happened at the same time. Brutalist architecture was a kind of tyrannical imposition of ideology on space. And you read some of the modern architects, for example, who talk about how they wish they could design the people in their buildings, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they wish that they could nail the chairs to the floor so that their designs would be impeccable. And so you have both this kind of crazy chaotic thing, but also this like massive tyrannical movement of art. So this is what we're noticing. So in order to be able to recapture, we have to be able to first off heal ourselves from this problem. Heal ourselves from the problem, first of all, and you see it even in liturgical artists. To my sadness, like I see sometimes a kind of desire to be gallery artists, the desire to make high art and to have their paintings in shows and have their paintings in catalogs and all of this stuff. But it's like, that's not the highest thing, right? The highest thing is really to have an object which participates in the liturgy and in, the celebration of the life of a saint or of Christ. Like that is the most embodied, real, and highest thing at the same time. So we need to, first of all, be able to to try to get out of the problem of the high, and also the problem of just understanding art as entertainment, which is one of the massive diseases of our world too. And so there's nothing, like I said, I would say there's nothing wrong with entertainment. And so, but we need to be able to first off heal from this decoupling. And then once we've healed from it, then I think a lot of artists can create things which will have meaning, which will engage the world. And even if you write stories that are more fictional, then those fictional stories, you'll write them with a purpose, and not a purpose in the sense of ideological, or in the sense of kind of writing propaganda or something like that, because those always stink. But a purpose of embodying heaven in a vehicle, and then being a place where people can recognize and participate in the pattern to a certain extent, to at least at a certain level. And so I definitely think we definitely need artists to to heal from this disease of art that has happened in the modern age, and move towards a more integrated vision of art.
Mhm. Yeah, well said. And I think you're doing that. I think that, that art will help create the healing as well. So kind of bridge the gap in terms of, I know that's what I see a lot that you're doing with your artwork, which is beautiful and it's meaningful and it's significant and it's got an impact in a sense. And I think more of that. And I think we can, if we leverage these technologies to connect people that are doing this type of work, and it's not going to be spread to everyone immediately, but I think, happening in little pockets across the country, across the globe. I think it's going to happen in this decentralized, localized way. And then from there, it'll, ripple out